What is up, everybody? My name is Matt Modai. I'm the host of Fast Break Bets presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. And what we're going to do in this video is I'm here to give you my top 5 NBA mock draft for the 2024, obviously, NBA draft. I'm just going through the top 5 picks, but I'm going to go through each one and giving you my official predictions. Before we get into that, make sure to check out bettingpros.com for all of your betting needs. Now, before I actually give you the picks themselves, one thing that I do want to note, just in general about this year's NBA draft, there is not a consensus number one pick or anything like that. There's no Victor Wembanyama, no Zion Williamson, no Anthony Davis, certainly no LeBron James. You might read 3 different mock drafts and get 3 different answers for who they predict to go number one. For example, the first 2 mock drafts I read, just to kind of do a little bit of research, had Zaccharie Risacher, player out of France. One of them had him as a number one pick. Another mock draft I read had him as the 7th pick. And that is not that unreasonable, not that unlikely to read a couple different mock drafts and to see a wide array of players, literally going from like 1 to 7. So what I ended up doing for this mock draft is I'm giving you my official predictions. I'm giving you what I actually think is going to happen, not what I would do if I were the GM, nothing like that. Just my official predictions on record. So if you agree with them, let me know. If you disagree with them, also let me know, but we'll see how well these top 5 picks go. And to give you the order of the top 5 picks of the draft, the Hawks have the number 1 pick. The Wizards are number 2. The 3rd team is the Houston Rockets. That's via the Brooklyn Nets. 4, San Antonio Spurs. And number 5 would be the Detroit Pistons. Poor Pistons. So let's just get right into it. Let's just go through it. Number 1, the pick for the Hawks. I have them taking Alex Sarr, French player. I have him going number 1 to the Hawks. It is kind of wild that the Hawks ended up with the number 1 pick, considering entering the lottery, they had the 10th best odds to have the top pick. Now, it is a little bit of a bummer that they got the number 1 pick this year. They would have been great to get it last year with Victor Wembanyama. Would have been great to get it probably next year with Cooper Flag, but that's not what happened. They got the number 1 pick in a draft where there's not a consensus number 1 pick. The player that I have them taking, Alex Sarr. This is not a hot take by any means, nothing like that. Most mock drafts you'll see have him going number 1. And I agree with those mocks. Looking at Sarr, he's a 7'1" forward/center. Kind of think Jaren Jackson Jr. vibes when you're thinking of Alex Sarr. Now, the guess with the Hawks is that they're going to end up trading one of DeJounte Murray or Trae Young. Another thing that is not a hot take by any means. But the beauty of Alex Sarr is I think that he would fit pretty well with both of them. He's going to need to thrive. Like his NBA, the way to reach his potential in the NBA is to pair him with a guard that is adept at running pick and roll, a very skilled guard who can run the pick and roll. Now, I think he would be the best fit next to Trae Young because Trae Young is a better passer than DeJounte Murray, and he also has limitless range, so he can just pull the defense out a little bit farther than DeJounte Murray can. Now, Murray's turned himself into a decent shooter, and he's definitely a good passer, but he's not Trae Young. And I think both of those qualities would be very, very helpful for someone like Alex Sarr, who he's got a good skill set, is what I'm trying to say, on offense, but he can't shoot. He cannot shoot at all. He's really only good on offense at attacking a closeout. But if you just give him that one read, attack closeout, that's something that he can do very well. He's athletic. He's phenomenal at finishing around the rim. And I think he could turn into a really, really good pick and roll partner for whoever ends up staying on the Hawks. I think he'd be a better fit with Trae Young. I also think he'd be a really good fit with DeJounte Murray. He's probably a player that his NBA potential will be best fulfilled as a center. They might try to start him off as a forward, kind of like what the Grizzlies do with Jaren Jackson Jr. He plays as a forward more often than not, but he's at his best when he's at his center. But regardless, I think that Alex Sarr will be the number 1 pick for the Hawks. Next up, our pick number 2. This would be the Washington Wizards pick, and I have them taking Zaccharie Risacher, another player out of France, with the number 2 pick. Now, if Alex Sarr doesn't go number 1, I think the Wizards would run to the podium to take Sarr number 1 if he doesn't go number 1. In the most likely scenario where Sarr does go 1, my official prediction obviously is that the Wizards take Risacher, player out of France. Now the Wizards, they're in a position in the draft where they are so devoid of really any high-end talent. They could draft any position. So if a point guard is their favorite player, draft a point guard. If a center is their favorite player, draft the center. Now, Risacher doesn't really have the upside, in my opinion, to become the best player on a championship team, or probably even the second best player on a championship team. But what he does have are the necessary skills to become an incredible two-way player that I mean, the type of player that literally every NBA team needs if they want to win a championship. They need guys like Risacher. Now, the Wizards could not be farther away from competing at that type of level, but Risacher would at least provide competence for a team that had Jordan Poole, really didn't have any competence last year. It was one of the most Shaqtin' a Fool teams that you could remember. So Risacher would be very valuable for them. Looking at him and looking at his game, he's very young. He's only 19 years old. So good for a rebuilding team like the Wizards, who are probably looking at next year's draft, where they're hopefully going to get a player that could be a top 5, top 10, best player on a championship team type of player. But looking at Risacher again, he's 19 years old, but he's already developed into a knockdown shooter, which is very, very important. Now, even if you want to say the 47% that he shot last year, that's an outlier. He's not going to be a 47% from deep type of shooter, especially in his first year. That's fine. I won't disagree with you, but he has good footwork and he has good form that leads you to believe that he will continue to be a high-level shooter. Maybe not as good as he was last year, but not someone that can't stay on the floor because he can't shoot. Now, his upside is limited because he doesn't really have the skills to create his own shot in a half-court setting. But what he does do on offense is he makes quick passes, and he's basically a really good connector. Type of player, like I said, that every offense needs. He makes quick passes, quick decisions. Either he's shooting or he's passing. He doesn't hold on the ball for a long time, which is pretty valuable, especially in a role player like is what I envision him being. Maybe not super exciting with the number 2 pick, but could be a really valuable player for them if they ever get good. Next up, Houston Rockets. I have them taking Reed Sheppard out of Kentucky. The Rockets have many thanks to James Harden for this pick. This was the Nets pick that the Rockets have because the Nets traded for James Harden, giving them their pick. This could end up being traded again. The Rockets could end up trading this. They've been linked to guys like Donovan Mitchell or Mikal Bridges. If they end up keeping the pick, I have them going with Reed Sheppard. I admit this probably is somewhat of a hot take. You won't see Sheppard going to the Rockets in that many mock drafts, but everything I know about him as a player and everything I've seen about him as a player matches up with what I believe Ime Udoka would want in a player. What Reed Sheppard lacks in size and athleticism, he more than makes up for it with incredible, phenomenal feel for the game. He's got really good, quick hands as an all-ball defender. He's got great instincts as well. He knows where to position himself. Whether he's on ball, whether he's off ball, he's going to make an impact defensively, a very smart, heady player. And the comparisons that you will see for Reed Sheppard are Derek White. If you remember, Derek White was traded to the Celtics midway through the 2022 NBA season. Ime Udoka was the head coach of the Celtics at that time, and that is when the Celtics took off that season. They were a middling team up until the trade deadline. Then they went on a run in the second half, a run all the way to the finals. Now, Reed Sheppard doesn't have a ton of off-the-dribble game. You're going to sense that a lot with the guys that I'm talking about, but excellent catch-and-shoot player, quick release, high release, the perfect player that you can run off screens with deep range, all that stuff. And for a Rockets team that does have a lot of young talent, but we don't really know what that young talent is yet, I think Reed Sheppard is the perfect player to add to that team as they wait and see how that talent shakes out, knowing that they have Reed Sheppard, who's as reliable as they come and can play really with any type of lineup. So I think Reed Sheppard would be a good pick for the Rockets, even though it's not a popular mock draft or anything like that. 4th pick is the San Antonio Spurs, and I have them taking Nikola Topic out of Serbia. You know, everything that I read and see about Topic feels like the perfect complement to Victor Wembanyama for the Spurs. They pair their generational center in Victor Wembanyama with what I think can be a really, really good and is a solid guard prospect out of Serbia, who's only 18 years old. So someone that can grow with Wemby if the Spurs are going to, have patience with this rebuild and not feel like they have to win immediately, make some bad decisions. Now, to get the negative out early, Topic doesn't have a great jump shot by any means. That's definitely the biggest improvement that he's going to need to make. And he will never profile as a plus defender either. But I personally believe him not being a plus defender, that's something that the Spurs can accept more than most teams because they have Victor Wembanyama patrolling the paint behind him. But what he lacks in jump shooting and defending, he makes up as being a very, very crafty player who, despite not really having a jump shot, uses body movement, change of pace, head fakes, footwork, all kind of the crafty stuff you see out of non-athletic players that are able to get into the paint. He uses all that stuff to drive. He's got a really, really good package finishing around the rim. despite not being a high flyer. He's got a really good layup package around the rim. And he's a really good decision maker. When he's driving into the paint, he's just as likely to pass the ball as he is to score. And he does a lot of high-level passing reads as well, whether it's a wraparound passes to his teammates, kick out to shooters, anything like that. A good rim running partner with Victor Wembanyama. I think his two-man game with Wemby has a ton of potential if this is the route they go. He just really needs to work on that jumper to make it something that at least defenses can respect. Because, you can do a lot around Victor Wembanyama because of how versatile he is on offense. And I think Topic and him, that two-man game would be phenomenal. And then our last pick for this specific mock draft, the Detroit Pistons. I have them taking Matas Buzelis out of the G League Ignite as their 5th pick. First of all, you really got to feel for the Pistons. They had a horrible season. They set the record, longest losing streak in NBA history at 28 games. And the reward for it is the 5th pick in a bad draft. Now, the good news is, because it's a bad draft, the Pistons could end up with the best player in this draft, despite the fact that they're only drafting at 5. So because there's no high-end number 1 prospect, maybe the best guy drops to 5 and the Pistons are able to snatch him up. Now, this pick of Buzelis to the Pistons, it's not a hot take by any means, nothing like that. He's the most popular player you will see mocked to the Pistons at 5, and I tend to agree with those mock drafts. Despite the Pistons' horrible record last year, they have a lot of good, exciting young talent. I love Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey had a disappointing sophomore season, but he still has a ton of talent. Both of him and Cade are guards. They have Jalen Duren at center, who I think has some promise. What the Pistons lack, they need wings. They're in desperate need of shooting. They had some of the worst spacing you will ever see on a modern NBA court last season. Now, Buzelis only shot 27% from 3 last season. So his shooting splits in the Ignite, that's not going to impress you. But there are reasons to believe that he will be able to turn himself into a plus shooter not too far into his NBA career. He has really, really good soft touch in the mid-range, whether it's floater, push shot, anything like that. He has soft touch there, getting that shot off in an instant. He has solid footwork getting to his step back, whether he wants to step back in the mid-range or on 3-point range. It's not clunky, it's not awkward, it's very fluid. And he does a good job in general. Fakes, body movement, that type of thing to create space to get a jump shot off. So if it's something that the defenses end up needing to respect, he has the skills to get that shot off. Then outside of that, incredible passer, incredible playmaking skills, which I think him and Cade could really, really develop well off of each other. Sometimes Cade initiates offense, sometimes Buzelis initiates offense. I think the two of them together can complement each other really well, and if you give them time to grow, I think there could be another really, really good tandem between these two. So that's my 5th pick. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, if you have your own draft predictions, put them in the comments. What I got right, what I got wrong, what you think is going to happen. And then, of course, check out bettingpros.com for all of your betting needs. But until I catch you next time, happy betting.